on like a little bit like staying sane in like crazy times. And then so people have seen that and it asked me to talk. And I started talking about that. It's a little less critical now as things have opened back up and people have adjusted. But at the first, I was so I felt that the official responses, you know, from the CDC or the MDs in charge, was so markedly limited in terms of how they framed what it would be to respond to something and how to be healthy. And I realized, like, first, I guess you really don't want epidemiologists to be in charge of health, because like health is not like isolating yourself and putting on a mask and making sure you don't talk to anybody. That's maybe a response to fear and disease, but it has nothing to do with health, and would actually contribute to some degree, probably, to disease function. Which doesn't mean you're supposed to run into a room and go hugging people. Um, it's just that it was such a way of responding to something that will not create health and will not create resilience and will not create, I'm going to say, flourishing. I don't even know what the word is, but isolation, threat, stress, all hurt immune function. In particular, isolation, fear, those are all not good for you. You know, it's like those are not ways to create health. I mean, they may be necessary. So, like when you give your kid medicine and they, you know, you say, okay, this awful tasting stuff is actually better than being sick, but this awful tasting stuff is not health, it's medicine. And I was struck by how, I'm going to say, limited the insight was, and how, I'm going to say, dangerous it is to give so much power over to such a tiny view of human potential. Like, I would have been much more comfortable if the whatever was in charge had psychologists and sociologists and all sorts of, like, a much more nuanced and balanced view of human beings than just, you know, stay inside and don't go out and don't talk to people. And if you cough, make sure you cover your thing. Like that's this much of health. And so I started to just think about what would it mean to actually think of health at a time like that. So it would seem, from a physical point of view, it would be a wonderful spur to, like, eat better, exercise, you know, even if you have to walk around your house 100 times, or, you know, go out your front door, go around the back and come around again. I mean, it's like, what an opportunity to actually talk about health. Make sure we all lost some weight, because lack of exercise, excess weight, stress, they all contribute, if you do get sick, to getting more sick. The inflammation from those things contribute, if there's a cytokine storm, that may be the thing that kills people in the virus. All those weaknesses contribute to the body's, let's say, inability to protect itself. But those weren't being talked about. Like, again, health. So this is a wonderful time to make sure you really eat well. And, like, don't order in McDonald's, no matter how tempting that might be, but make sure you have a salad. And, you know, whatever, take a walk around the salad and give thanks for the salad, so that you could have some emerging health positiveness around maybe a need to protect yourself and other people. And that's part of staying sane. I mean, that's actually what staying sane is making the best we can in our life with what our life is. But it's an affirmative step. It's not just threat. Like threat and health are not the same thing. But there are affirmative practices. I remember thinking to myself, again, if more health was involved in the official kind of instructions as to how to respond to the coronavirus, it would be maybe to teach people who were stuck in line, at Costco, 6 feet apart, like desperately hunting for toilet paper, to practice wishing the people around them well. Like, make that a practice. So, like, if everybody in line is thinking, like, of the person ahead of them, wow, we're in this together. It's us. So, a kind of compassion practice. Or when you see the person on the front of the line, there's a Buddhist practice of sympathetic joy. So be happy that somebody made it into the store, even if it's not you. But there are so many things one can do for health that we were not instructed to or taught in any stretch of the imagination, and still we're on our own for health. But staying sane is looking for health. It's the affirmative quest for what can be, I'm not going to say taken, but what can we do to make our life the best we can? Back in the 80s, when people were just starting to think of resilience, there was some research done on hardiness. And they came up with something called the 3 C's: control, challenge, and commitment. They looked at people who had to deal with adverse events. And what they did is they tried to figure out, like, what separated out the people who were successful in it from the people who weren't. Like, it wasn't rocket science, but the people who dealt successfully with difficulties, what separated them from those who didn't? That would have been the kind of education that I would have liked to see, not just keep 6 feet from everybody and make sure you wear a mask. That's the lowest level of health information. But they came up with the 3 C's. Commitment, which was, I'm gonna survive. I'm gonna be okay. A commitment to self. Control. I'm not gonna kvetch about all the things I can't control, but I'm gonna focus my attention on things I can control. So if I'm stuck inside and this is a perfect time maybe to, like, if I need to lose 10 pounds, this is the time. I can control what I eat. I can manage portions. If I'm, ordering in food, I can make sure to order in good food. But here's something I can control. I can't control the virus. I can't control the official response to it, but I can control my mouth. And then challenge. I'm going to see this as a challenge, not as a disaster. I'm going to take it as a personal challenge of my thriving skills. So these are all mindset qualities. These are mindset qualities. These are ignored in our cultural teaching because well, there's a lot of reasons. You can't profit on these. But mindset, control, challenge, commitment, maybe even gratitude. It would have been really nice to remind us. I mean, we did a little bit like that, the fact that even in a worldwide virus thing, it's amazing that there was still food in your supermarket. And if we were taught to honor the fact that there's still food in the supermarket rather than, communal complaining about how to wait in line for Whole Foods or Instacart because you have to wait a day. Those are health mindsets. Thank you. Even with virus everywhere, somehow milk shows up at Safeway. I don't know how that's possible, but it does. So that would be a nice moment for a communal thank you, a sincere one. Because a sincere thank you leads people themselves to be generous. Like that's the value of sincere thank you. When you actually are grateful and you actually see abundance, actually not give lip service to it, but when that's actually how you hold things, you almost become compelled to pay it forward. So if I am awestruck at the fact that with a worldwide virus, somehow there's still food in my Safeway, I'm going to be a nicer human being. Because that's what actual gratitude does. So there's all sorts of mindset things that could have been part of what do you do when you're stuck inside with the coronavirus? Who can you help? How can you soothe yourself? And what positive skills can you cultivate? These are all responses to change and disruption. Not that change and disruption is easy, but you get a gut check. You get to see how you respond to things. It shows you what you've practiced in life. That's the really interesting thing about adversity. You know, that famous line that adversity doesn't like like cause character, it reveals character. Well, that's true. Because you get to see what you've become when there's struggle. You get to see who you are and what you practice. You know, are you a complainer? Are you grateful? Do you try to help other people? You know, I don't know if, how many of you saw, there was a wonderful, like, just little snippet of, there were people at Costco who, during the worst of the toilet paper, like, crisis, they were trying to get into Costco multiple times a day. So they would try to sneak into Costco by wearing disguises. And so Costco at that time, because they didn't know, I mean, nobody knew how much supply there was. So Costco limited people to, one trip a day to Costco. So there were people who would try to put on fake, glasses and different hair color and go into Costco a second time, but they were caught because their card would show that they were there already. And here they were with like a fake beard, but their card gave them away. So that's not thriving in a crisis. That's just scared and selfish. But you could use it as a challenge to, like, what does it say about me? And how do I use my abundance maybe to be of help? But the biggest place that they failed us is in not reminding us how essential human beings are. Just essential. And not putting resources to outreach to other human beings. You know, there'll be a gazillion dollars for a vaccine, but there was almost no money put to outreach and support and care of people. But human beings need other human beings more than just about anything else. And if you're stuck at home, like, that becomes harder. And what again was missing was, if you can't, like, physically reach out to people, I mean, everybody knows this, but you can electronically reach out to people. But even more than that, you can remember people. Like, one of the things that separates resilient people from not so resilient people is the resilient people remember that they're loved. And the less resilient don't in the same way. So the resilient folks might bring to their mind, yeah, boy, wasn't it nice when 10 years ago, blah, 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 did this? And the less resilient might say, God, nobody's been nice to me in 10 years since blah, blah, blah did this. That's all mindset. That's all choice. All of it. But the resilient somehow remember to go, yeah, you know, good stuff has happened to me in this life. I've been cared for. I've had the opportunity to love. What a gift. Let me give a very short, like, guided meditation, not even meditation, practice on something like that. So let me ask all of you to just, like, take a moment out, like, you know, if you're multitasking, like, stop multitasking. Like, most people, one of the real dangers of this way of teaching is everybody's almost so distracted that nobody can just pay attention to a screen. They're on their phone, they're doing 3 things on the computer, they're eating. The distraction of our culture has literally crippled our ability to be happy, because a mind that's constantly distracted is almost impossible, that mind, to be happy, because it needs to find the good to focus on. What I'd ask you to do is drop the multitasking for a moment. Just drop it. Put your phone away, close other windows, just put dinner away, even though I have no care whether you're eating in that. I'm just, you know, this is a grit kind of training. Just put it all away and allow yourself to just sit comfortably and still for a moment. And allow your attention, just for a moment, to go inward, inside. And allow your breathing. I mean, this is just the simplest of meditation instruction. Just allow your breathing to very slowly. Just get a little deeper and a little gentler. And then the last piece is just when you inhale, have your abdomen expand, because that's the piece of meditation that quiets the nervous system immediately. Just when you inhale, have your abdomen expand. And then just ask yourself one simple question, just as you sit a little quietly. In the last 48 hours, has anybody been kind to you? You want to look over your last, say, 2 days for any expression of human kindness. Did anybody, reach out to you, say anything nice, help you in any way, support you, call you, tell you nice things? You want to look in your last 2 days for any example of human kindness. And then just, if you can, pick one. And just inside of you, very simply say thank you. Just say thank you. And then that's enough. Just let that go. So that kind of very simple practice is really good for your immune system. That's partly how you keep yourself safe from the coronavirus. I'm not suggesting you go to a beach party and just because you think nice thoughts, you're going to be safe. But I am saying that if you lock yourself up or you only do the fear-based, threat-based stuff, you're almost never going to feel safe. Almost never. And what the general tone misses is that there is a huge difference between inner safety and outer safety. You may be able a little bit to protect yourself from the coronavirus by external safety. But if external safety doesn't translate to internal safety, you're still anxious all the time. It doesn't really do you much good. I know some of my older friends are just frightened to death. I mean, not to death, but they're really frightened. And they won't go out unless they have a mask every second and they're wearing gloves. And I think that their anxiety is probably not good for their long-term well-being. But you want to have a realistic appraisal of your life. And you won't unless you consciously remember kindness and love and times of good times. And another understanding, and this is a tough one, that you will never be 100% safe physically, ever. I mean, those of you old enough know that something's going to get you. You know, you could lock yourself into a house and wear a hazmat suit all day long, and you're still going to be found. So the question of how do you cultivate inner safety, not just fear-based outer safety, is a really important question for health and immune function. Really important question. Because again, and you all know some of the risk factors. Clearly, being overweight is a risk factor for coronavirus. Having diabetes, high blood pressure, any of the, the metabolic disorders. But so is being depressed or anxious. And so is being alienated. Those are risk factors to your immune system. And positive mindset actually mitigates some of the dangers of the physical risk factors. Again, I'm not suggesting you go to a beach party in Florida and think that again, because you have happy thoughts, you're going to be fine. But happy thoughts matter. Because when you shut yourself off or are not willing to go out of the house without a mask and everything you read is fear-based, you want inner safety as well. And part of inner safety comes from doing your best to love, not just keep yourself locked away. Doing your best to love, not just protection. And also cultivating some qualities of resilience. So they used to talk about the people who were resilient, like when they had a difficult experience like a divorce. The control piece was like they would take up, they'd start training for a marathon. They couldn't control their life, so they started doing long runs because they found something they could control. The same is true for any of us dealing with the disruption of the coronavirus. Maybe you can't train for a marathon, but if you can buy a treadmill and sit in your living room and train to watch a full episode of The Bachelorette. I mean, whatever it is, you do whatever training you can. But it's a resilient mindset. And I wish that they had taught this, because it would have spared a lot of suffering and a lot of illness. That inner safety matters as much or more as outer safety. And we have more control over the inner safety. Let me give you one more practice. This is a slightly more formal meditation, but it'll only take like 2 minutes. Let me ask you all again to sit quietly for a moment, and this time be willing to close your eyes. So sit where you are quietly, and gently allow your eyes to close. And just allow yourself to relax and to a little bit to center yourself. And center can be nothing more than bringing your attention inward. But centering also means that you're pulling away from fear and anxiety and bringing your attention inside. And then you simply want to relax your breathing so that when you inhale, your breathing is gentle and it's slow. So that when you inhale, your abdomen expands on the inhalation and contracts on the exhalation. And then just one more practice, just bring an image to your mind of someone you absolutely love or adore. Bring an image to your mind of someone you absolutely adore. And hold that image clearly in your mind so you can use it to almost warm your heart. So you just want to hold that loving image and you just want to see if you can feel that warmth like in your own heart. You're just using it to quiet yourself down and remember love. And you just want to sit for a moment in your own, like I'm going to say, little tiny safe space. And then just let that image go. And take a deep breath or two, and then very gently allow your eyes to open. So that's a practice that will enhance your immune function. And that's a practice that can help you feel safer. It's not hard to practice. I mean, you're given no official sanction for that practice. It would be nice if, like, the stores that have all their signs to make sure you stay 5 feet away, don't breathe on anybody, don't look at anybody, you know, eat so quickly that you don't even have to really take down your mask, that somehow you pull it down. And like all the rush and worry stuff, imagine if it also said, and everybody in here think kind, loving thoughts for everybody else. And then you'd be doing something for safety. But again, that's not how we pay the cultural protectors of our supposed well-being. But we can do some of that. Like we can, if anybody reaches out to us, we can remember to say thank you. And we can ask ourselves, like, what good can I do? Like, how can I help? The absolutely simplest human questions. Like, thank you, and maybe what can I do? Who can I call? Who can I encourage? Just anything. But that is if you want to actually work on your immune function and your mindset and your sense of safety in the world. That's how you practice staying sane. Telling everybody just to keep 6 feet of distance and wear a mask will keep no one sane. It may help some, some of the spread, but it will not keep us sane. And we're all seeing, you read in the paper about how there's only so much of this that human beings can deal with. And pandemic fatigue is starting to get pretty significant. And so people are not going to just spend the rest of their lives with a mask over their head and staying apart from people, because that ain't health. And that's not safety. And even though they pay lip service to, like, this is a communitarian thing, there's a lot of other ways that we can teach people to be communitarian, to be compassionate. But it's not just in the external methods of make sure you wear a mask and stay apart. And so, again, the reason I started to talk about this was, one, my jaundice about the messages that we were getting, and just an understanding of the fact that we really did all need to practice sanity, because at some level we're here to some degree a marathon, not a sprint. This ain't ending tomorrow. So we need long-term strategies.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
and like literally anything else in the human experience, those long-term strategies require some degree of kindness. And that's the link with sanity, is some degree, literally some degree of long-term sanity is kindness. So that's my little talk here. I think I was asked to go till no later than 3. And I hope I did.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Fred. Thank you so much for that insight. And I just want to say thanks again for joining us today. And those words really resonated with me, not only when dealing with the COVID virus, on how we can stay healthy mentally and as well as physically, but